one of the most like secret like OP things in the game.
You know, LSS gives you some, and then they take some away. So.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Win and In podcast, episode 19. Today I am joined with my usual co-host, Mr. Jonathan Wyatt, and another special guest, a two-timer, returning guest, the most recent battle-hardened winner of Indianapolis, Mr. Peter Buddensiek. Yeah, there it is. Winning with none other than Kano himself. How's it going, boys?
We got the two-time in.
Yep. Yeah, you gotta... The joke is I'm now the two-time, but if anybody knows the Dr. Disrespect meme, it's the two-time.
Yeah. Back-to-back, two-time blockbuster champion.
Back-to-back.
Congratulations.
Yeah. It's great. Thank you. It's great being back, obviously. It was a wild weekend, so like obviously I can get into it, but yeah, it's very fun to be back.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, let's hop straight into it. Really interested to hear about your run in Battle Hardened. You seem to be the combo king, so to put it. Really showing success on these combo decks, bringing them in, and really giving them your own flavor and taste. So if you could. How is the event, and then how are your rounds?
I play a lot of combo decks, or like think about a lot of like different interactions. So like that's nice to hear. So do you want me to preface like what I did at the calling first, and then why I played the Battle Hardened at the calling?
Yeah, absolutely. I guess the whole story for Indy, right?
So I obviously. Leading into Indy, we had some bans. We had Hypothermia leave, we had Belittle leave, and we had Winter's Wail get banned, right? And which are pretty big. Like when I looked at it, I was like, this is like pretty big hits, right? Because when you like really think about it, like Belittle Minnowism was like one of the most like secret like OP things in the game that a lot of people either like hated or they abused it. I was an abuser, don't get me wrong. But like it was really good, right? And then like Hypothermia is like obviously very good against Briar and very good against all these like Runeblade-esque aggro decks that like go again in a different way. And then Winter's Wail, obviously for Oldhim, is like, bro, I was hearing like Guardian is dead. Guardian will never be a thing anymore.
Pretty sure
like,
I said that myself.
Guardian Copers in my locals. I'm talking about Eric specifically.
We got one of them right here.
Man was like posted up on his chair, just like, bro, the world is gone, bro. Like I don't even know what to do. Like, he was hard coping, and and he's like, I don't know if I'm a good player anymore. And I was like, bro, Winter's Wail got banned. You could probably play like Bravo or something. But no, I mean. It was big changes, right? Or perceived big changes. I still thought Icelander was going to be good leading to this tournament. I still thought there was going to be an Oldhim deck that's just going to be a little less good. Maybe it's like A- B tier, but it's still going to be like shown up. Maybe there's one or two that squeaks into top 8. I still thought it was a really good deck because of the tools Guardian has. And then I thought Fi would still be good post Belittle ban. I was wrong. So I specifically like playing Fi. Not like, but like, it's just one of the decks that like, I resonate with. I like playing aggro decks and I like playing combo decks. So there's not realistically a consistent combo deck in CC currently. I played a lot of Kano. I just don't. I think it's like just a little bit off of being like consistent enough for me wanting to play a combo deck like that. So spent a lot of time on Fi. Basically went from 13 blues with Belittle to 17, and then played Ravenous Rebel, and some other like random sideboard cards. Like I was able to make room for like a race face for Dash, Viscerai, and stuff like that. So I thought I was pretty confident going into the calling with this like new Fi list. Thought you could just like really win a lot of the matchups. Like he's still really consistent. Did pretty well, started 2-0, somehow flipped a Kano match round 1, which I thought I was like giga dead. Like beat 2 OG Bravos day 1, which like a lot of people were like, oh, it's like one of your worst matchups. I got destroyed by a Viscerai and still almost won that match. but it was like 11-1 on the last turn, and I got double Revel and Rune Blood like swinged at, and so I had no AB, so I just died at 11, and I went, that's crazy. Right, like that's crazy.
I feel for you.
I mean, it happens, like don't get me wrong. I was gooned on people on this ride for a long time, so like I got gooned on. He hit double blue tome on the same turn. Like it was, well, bro. I was like, I ain't winning this game. So yeah, and then I lost to an Ice Lexi, and then I lost a close one on stream actually for my win-in for day 2 against Briar. Lost that close one. Had some like pretty unlucky draws, but like that's the now a little bit more inconsistent Fi list because you have to play so many weird cards these days. That happens, Not really too mad about it. Was kind of disappointed. Then went to Kilroy's. If you guys were at Indy, Kilroy's was like this random bar. It was actually right next to my Airbnb, which was quite nice. I ate there for 4 days straight. It's quite good. Great bar food. Good burgers. And then I played the Battle Hardened, and I spent about 30 minutes making my Kano list because I haven't played Blitz since Worlds, and they unbanned Storm Shredders, and I was like, I'm definitely playing Kano, and that's all I knew. So I had a 30-minute conversation with my boy Alex4, and we built the deck, and obviously it won, so it was pretty good.
Wow.
I mean, you've been a Kano player for a minute, too.
Yeah, I think, like, besides very few times in Blitz, I've been playing Kano. Like, when I first started playing the game, it was, like, we're in, like, an Ira Kano meta. I played a lot of Ira back then because I was, like, I like the aesthetic of Ninja. So I played a lot of the Ira, and then I got taught how to play Kano back then from, like, Brennan Patrick on Arsenal Pass, watching their videos and all the time. And then Combo Vis came out in Blitz, and I played that for a skirmish season, and that thing was disgusting, and I loved that deck. And then they banned it, and because he was too good. And then I went back to playing Kano for a long time. Then Storm Shatters got banned because of Icelander's sins, and then Kano was like almost unplayable. And so I played Chain at Worlds, and then now Storm Shatters is unbanned. I'm a Kano stan.
Yeah, back released from your cage. Just ripping and roaring, ready to go.
From the dungeon.
Yeah, and it seems pretty good, right? Because you're at least practiced enough on Kano to come in and bring it to this deck, but seemingly a little unprepared. Did you have any hesitations going into the Battle Hardened initially, or were you pretty confident in your skill level?
I think like the thing is like obviously I was prepping a significant amount of time for CC, which is the main event for the calling.
Absolutely.
So like I wasn't really playing a lot of Blitz, like pretty much at all. So but a lot of the game translates from format to format, except for like a couple things. So I think like the theory in one format can translate to another format because you're basically, what you have to do is think about a format that you're already in the mid game. Like, so you're already basically halfway through your deck, half your life total has already been taken, and you start from that position in the game, and you got to figure out what does your deck do from that position instead of 40 versus 40. How does 20 versus 20 or 20 versus 15 work, right? And then that's where you want to start structuring your Blitz deck, in my opinion, of like, you can't be super greedy. You have to understand, like, you only got 20 life to play with. That's not a lot. Like, a lot of those endgame scenarios play out the way they do because you can't pivot like you can when you're at 30 life. So that's how I equate it, like, Blitz to CC. So I think a lot of the theory is there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the quick actions of Blitz, you have to be a really good player to be able to pivot in a lot of those situations, and just have the mettle to withstand. So if you could you walk me through some of your matches and tell me how the deck performed in your mind? Obviously, you won the whole thing, so did pretty dang good.
Yeah. So it went really well. I'll say this one joke that I have. Every single round that I started in my seat and not in the bathroom, I won.
All right.
So I'll get into that in a sec. I'll get to that in a second, because it happened in round 4, which is hilarious. But going to the day, I felt pretty well. Obviously, I played a lot of Kano. I think a lot of people, especially in a blitz scene, has either played against like maybe one good Kano in their life. So showing up and being like that good Kano is probably really good. I didn't really see a lot of Kano, and not a lot of people play Kano because it's like actually really hard to play, and like the pivot, because like one mistake in blitz, you kind of just lose the game. And Kano has a little bit of some bad matchups that are like kind of popular in blitz right now at like a casual scene. So a lot of people kind of stay away from that. But it's really good into the Ice Heroes, and why it's like kind of a sleeper pick in CC, because it's good against Icelander and it's good against Oldhim. And I think a lot of people default to those characters when they go to a format they don't know a lot, especially because a lot of people are copers and play Kasai. And Kano is literally the worst thing you could ever see when you play Kasai, because you cannot win that matchup no matter what you do. So
it's true.
It's crazy. So going to the day, felt pretty confident. I showed up and I sat down on my seat for round 1, and I was so good. My opponent didn't even show up. You know, I was so intimidating. You know, you got the nice clothing with kayfabe cards. You know, like they just didn't.
It wouldn't be a tournament if you didn't get a free win somewhere.
It's actually funny because randomly at locals, whenever there's like an odd number, I get the buy. I don't know what it is, but I'm just like blessed by Gem getting buys randomly, or my opponent doesn't show up. So it happens. So round 1, obviously I got that dub because, you know, it's a buy. And then round 2, I play against Boost Dash, which is probably your worst matchup in the game as Kano.
Mm-hmm.
Was not happy to see Dash be revealed in front of me. It was actually the Dash that always like cosplays at like the callings and like the pro tour.
Oh,
it was her. Really
that's
nice,
cool.
Really nice. I think her name is Rachel. Rachel, if I believe. Yeah, she was a really nice person to play against. Didn't really know what a lot of what Kano did, and like we had some like nice fun. And I was like explaining something. That game was really interesting. As well, I like comboed. I just like threw 4 spells on turn 2, and I was like, oh, this doesn't happen all the time. And then, yeah. So
that's what all the Kano players say, don't they?
It doesn't happen. I had like, I had an insane like red tome into like 3 spell, like just do 20 arcane in 1 turn. Like I was like, I'm sorry. I was like, I had an extra blue in my hand, so I was like, oh, I'll just Kano at the end of your turn, because like my entire turn was just gonna be like blue pitch into like Aether Spindle, and then it turned into like hit red tome, hit good spell, hit good spell. I guess I can Storm Shatter this other spell in my hand and you die. Like it happens. But she was really nice. Flipped that matchup, and then round 3 I play against an Oldhim, which is like the matchups I want to see, because the longer the game goes as Kano, the happier that I am, because I get to have more information, which the deck really is an information-based deck. You make better decisions than your opponent, and you usually win the game. So I want to pitch deck, but this one goes a little awry on turn 0. He wins the die roll, and he read Glacial Fuses on turn 0. So I start the game at 8. And then
big
I take 0 damage because I didn't hit anything off the top.
And then
I go to my
take off the body weights after that point. You're like, all right, take off the restraints.
Yeah, I was like, oh damn, like that's a pretty good start, and we were like joking about it. And then like I go to 8, and then I like blast him on like my turn, and then I think I do like 4 or 5 damage through AB, and then he comes in with like, it was like Endless Winter, and then I believe I had a pummel over the top to like just kill me on turn 2, and I had like red scolding, you die. Like just I had it. He did like he was like, I need to try to kill you as fast as possible, because I think you can. If you're a competent Kano player, you will just pitch stack me if I want to play defensively. So I'm just gonna try to kill you and see if you have it, which I had it. So, but I do think more people need to do that when they play against Kano, is like, yeah, if you don't have the facilitation of like holding the blue pitches in hand and you don't want to play slow, like sometimes it is just dump your hand, hope they can't kill you in response, because not every hand can kill you in response, but a lot of them do. So you gotta pick.
I want to preface this real quick because I was there even before I came and saw the end result, which was insane. It was very much insane. I thought you were dead, but he came in. You did it. But before I even walk over, I see Peter just like this, just covering his head, like just really focused. And I was like, oh, it doesn't look good. And now I know that's because you got fused for red glacial footsteps. That makes sense.
Yeah. Well, so it was like fused red glacial. I go to 8, and then it was like I knew something was awry when I just like red spelled. He just goes, "I'm not gonna pitch," and I go, "I'm dead." Like I'm straight dead, right? Like, and he just goes like, "Endless winter, no fuse, 2 floating," and I go, "That has to be a pump. There's no reason you not pitch that extra card, right?" And I'm like, "I'm dead. I'm like, this has to be a pummel," and I was like, throw my tunic in front of it. No, like that's all the blocks I have. He's like, pummel. I'm like, it's go time, baby. Like there's only one thing to do. Like, so yeah, I saw Eric walk over. I was like hard in the tank, like just trying to like figure out like the exact if I should use Crucible or not, because I didn't know if I didn't hit a blue off the top of my Ragamuffins, like it made it a little bit more awkward. So I'm like in the tank and I'm like, like what how do I sequence this correctly to like not whiff, because I've whiffed a lot, so you always try to not whiff. And then I had like the E-pot to like have like exact resources to like to kill him too. And then like Eric's just like, damn, that was fucking good. I was like, oh, what?
All right, so it was good, you did the math, and then you looked up and you're like, all right, call an ambulance, but not for me.
I mean, like playing Kano is like the funnest, wildest experience like you could ever have in your entire life, because it's just like, fundamentally you always start the game losing, and then but you trade always losing the game to have a double turn, which, don't get me wrong, if I could have that for every hero in the game, I take that every day, right? Like, it's hard for some like you to be able to go basically 2 turn cycles when somebody can only go 1 turn cycle. You just leak significant amount of damage, right? Stormshiders is a hell of a drug. Kano is a hell of a drug. So I actually hope that gets better, because, or there's decks like it in the future, like kind of like how Icelander plays, but Icelander's kind of like Kano training wheels, to say realistically. But I hope there's more decks like that in the future as well. So.
Okay, yeah. So after Oldham, what was your next matchup?
Okay. My next matchup was the bathroom toilet, because I started the round in the toilet.
It's a hard matchup.
So I'll preface this by, after round 3, against the Oldham, which didn't take that long, but I had a nice conversation with him afterwards about like the matchup and his theory on it and my theory on it. I walk over to the calling. I think there's like 5 minutes left on the time, so I thought I was fine. So I walk over to the calling. I was like going to use the restroom. I see like my judge friends, and I kind of like wave hi to him. And I was like, oh, I'm gonna go like see what my friends are doing in the calling, because they're in day 2, and then like use the restroom and then come back. Didn't think much of it. Go to the calling. Watch like my boy like Majin. He's like 2-0 on day 2. I was like, oh, let's go. Watch some like Triciali and Horsebull, and I was like, oh, nice. Like my boys are doing good, right? They're making deep runs into day 2. Like they're like 2-3 rounds in, like basically like playing win-ins for top 8, like 2 rounds in a row, which didn't go well, but is what it is. And then I watched for about like, I'd probably say like a minute and a half, and then I walked to the restroom. Then I used the restroom, and while I was at the restroom, they called the next round for the Battle Hardened, but I can't hear anything in the restroom. So I walk out of the restroom, and I walk back to the calling, and because Chris was still playing, because he was playing against Fatigue Oldham as Lexi, and he actually won that one. And I watched for probably 10 seconds, and I look to my left, to my battle hardened, and everybody sat down, and I go, dang, that's tragic, and I like run over. I like run over and I sit down and I'm like exactly like 3 minutes 15 seconds late. So like it's an IP3, right? Because it's like 310 is like the two denominators. And I tried to argue like, hey, I was in the restroom, and they're like, can you prove it? And I was like, I love judges.
Can you prove it?
Like,
okay.
But like, it was like, can you prove it? Like, did you tell a judge that you went, right? And like my mind's like, okay, like obviously I didn't try to be late, and like if you could like go back in security footage, like you just see me walk out of the bathroom. like obviously like I could prove it technically, but like it would take a while. Like it's just like one of those things where it's like, yeah, I'm not mad at them. Like it's the rules. Like realistically, I should have told a judge like, hey, I'm using the restroom if I'm late to the next round, and preface it that way. But you know, it's my fault. So I get an IP3. And then I sit down, and my plane's playing Boost Dash, which is just a death sentence. I want to note that I went to, like, 3 life on turn 0.
Off to a good start.
So, like, I get an IP3, my opponent wins the die roll, I block with 3 cards in my hand, and go to 3. I like it. I don't know if it's like 1 to 3. I was like holy shit. I was like, anything hits me, right? Anything, I die, right? Like you could breathe on me and I die. And I'm like, okay, cool. But they only, so I think he was either newer. He was like the Green Tree Rampage jersey thing, and like I believe those guys are like kind of like new, or like they're just kind of like casual local people. And he only presented AB1 against Kano. I don't know if he only had AB1 in his sideboard, or he just thought like, oh, you have an IP3, I can just probably kill you, but if I use my other equipment. And so I actually had a random chance of winning that game because I hit like red spell into like Arsenal, red Emeritus Scolding, and then I drew blue red red. But if I drew blue red with Emeritus Scolding and Arsenal, he died. So so I almost flipped that matchup, but like I had an Eye of Ophidia in my hand, I just die. Like I can't block anyways, so I tried to like, you know, go out. Like he had a really bad start because he goes like blue throttle, yellow throttle, and I was like, wait, do I just like randomly get to like live this turn if I like block with like 2 cards in my hand plus Tunic on like the last attack that comes in? But then he goes like 2 for 10, and I'm like, oh, I'm 100% dead. Like I can't do anything. Like that's tragic. And I mean, it's what it is. Like I should go to my round on time. You know, like it's what it is. But that was the only thing I lost the entire day, which that's fun.
Yeah, LSS gives you some, and then they take some away. So
they give you some with the round 1 bye, and they take it away with the you know? Like it's all fair in the day's work, you know. But that was round 4. Round 5, I play against Sebastian Calavaro. Hopefully I'm saying your last name right. And he was playing Chain. Obviously, he's known for it. In round 5, we had a good conversation. I know he took a break from the game for a while, and I'm happy he came back. You know, like I'm happy to see people that when I first started playing, like in Monarch, and being competitive with people and traveling to these events, he was like one of the first people that like, you know, he top-8'd the calling. You know, he lost in the finals to Horsepool, and like it's just a really nice guy, right? And I've had a lot of interactions with the card guys, and like they're all nice guys, and you know, I was happy to see him back. Had a good conversation during the game. The game wasn't particularly close at all. He just rolled over and died, really. But like it was a good. It was like a good time to like see him at events again.
Hey, nice to see ya. Bye.
I know. I felt bad. It was just like every turn it seemed like he like had just like triple or like quad red in his hand, and he was like pretty scared to overextend because I just had like an arsenal and 4 cards in my hand every turn, and it's kind of hard when you play against Kano and you know you have low AB and you pitch a red to do something, and then like now Kano knows that you have like no resources in your hand unless you're like ultimately bluffing something, right? So you have to play like he was playing a little scared. I would rather just take 2 damage from a Rosetta Thorn and then play on my turn and then chip you down until you just die. So that's what it was. Then I played against OG Bravo. I played against Edward Knight. He's a Magnolia pro player. He's a nice guy. I played him in the Calling and beat him there, and I played him in this and beat him here. So this is a great guy. I had a great conversation with him both games. He was playing OG Bravo, and I won. I played around Pummel like 3 times, and after the game he had the Pummel all 3 times to like exactly kill me, and I like blocked with the Tunic, and so like he didn't pummel the first time, and then I blocked over so I didn't die till the red pummel, and then like if he red pummeled he had like 0 floating, so he 100% died, but he had to try to kill me, and then I won in response, and it was a nice game. It was like, what's the only thing I lose to here? Oh, you have red pummel? Alright, let me block accordingly. Oh, you had red pummel the entire time? Well, glad I put that around that, you know, like, I think I made a lot of good reads this weekend, and, like, that red pummel and that round was, like, one of the good reads. Round 7, I played against an Icelander, and won that one. That's one of your good matchups. And then round 8, I played against a Chain, and so we made top 8.
Wow.
Very good. Very good.
Cool.
And then we made top 8, and then I run over to the Calling, and my friend Majin made top 8 of the Calling, and like my teammate Majin, and like so we were excited. We're like, bro, we got the double top 8 this weekend. Like that's cool. And like we were hanging out, and I was like, good luck, because he was playing like Patel in the top 8 as Briar, and he was playing Icelander, which was a good matchup. But like obviously Patel's like such a great guy and a great player that I was like, you know, it could go either way, you know. And so imagine winning his top 8, and then I played against the Icelander in top 8, and this guy was really nice, nice to me, but I don't know if he knew the matchup 100%, because so I put him on the play because I was the higher seed. I put him on the play. He does nothing on turn 0, which is correct, and then I don't do anything. I just play an E-Pot and then Arsenal a Red Tome. He comes in with like a 1-for-4 Arcane spell. I like pitch double blue to like stop it, and then he like Waning Moons himself and like ABs it to like get the Constella's trigger, and then go to my turn. I play like the Red Tome from my Arsenal to draw 2 cards. And then I hit Swell Tidings off the top off my blue, and then I Swell Tidings him, and then pitch a red to come in with Waning Moon, and he like ABs like and takes like 1 damage. And then I Arsenal Red Scolding, and then he has 2 cards in his hand because he AB'd for 6. And then he E-strikes me for 7 with 0 cards in his hand, 0 floating, and he was at 17, and he died because I just drew double Emeritus Scolding like 3rd spell, and yeah. He was like, oh, I didn't think you could kill me there. And I was like, well, that's Kano for you. I was like, yeah, I guess, like, I think he was really nice. He was a nice guy, like, but I don't think, like, when you don't play against Kano a lot, especially because, like, Icelander is, like, your bad matchup is Kano, because he can abuse, like, certain situations that you usually don't have to deal with, because you're the character that plays on both turns. But Kano also plays on both turns, so the Wizard matchup is like whoever makes a mistake loses, because it's very punishing if you make a mistake. So he made a mistake, and he took 27.
Yeah, I just love that story. It's just like, you play down the E-strike, and you're like, all right, I got a 17 health buffer.
Yeah, because, like, in any other matchup, right? Like, you use 2 cards to block, and then you come in for 7, and that's, like, this whole Icelander's whole entire thing, right? But against Kano, you have 2 cards in your hand, you pass the turn. As Icelander, you just pass. You just can't do anything. Because, like, if you respond, I kill you. Like, which is exactly what happened. So, yeah. And then I played against the Chain Gauntlet, as I like to call it, in semifinals and finals. So semifinals, play a really interesting game. This is like, Nourishing Emptiness was pretty good for me like the entire weekend, but a lot of the time people, especially Chain, will play EB3 plus the Spellblade 2 hat against Kano specifically. And when they do that, they don't have, Husk to stop Nourishing Emptiness. And we made the conscious decision of putting Nourishing Emptiness in the deck, although it's like, it's kind of rough, but like sometimes you just need to hit it and like not hit it off Kano and like just draw it in a lot of games, because it can get you a lot of resources and a lot of like other stuff that helps you out, right? Both times both in the semis and the finals, I hit with Nourishing Emptiness, and Chain can't block it, and the matchup's super close, and I'd probably say it's like 50-50, depending on how good like the Chain player is, because what Chain can do against Kano that's like really efficient is, because of Shoal Shackles, if you hit a certain number of cards off your shackles in the first like 3 turns, you can just play out of your banish and never play a card from your hand. And what is really good about that is that it makes it so Kano can't ever respond basically on your turn, because if they do, like, you have cards in hand to always AB. So, and I think they played around it really well, especially my opponent in the finals played around it very well, because he obviously hit really well off his benches, but he understood that he wanted to keep 1 to 2 cards in his hand basically at all times, to like the illusion of like, hey, I could have multiple blues in my hand. So if you try to respond, obviously you're not going to kill me in enough time, right? I had a really good like sequence of hitting with Nourishing and like double spelling on my turn, or like attempting to double spell. And I had like a Lesson Lava with a red Scolding in my arsenal. A lot of the time when I come in with Lesson, it's like to put, and I had like another blue in my hand with 1 floating. I was like, oh, I can go Lesson for 4, and then get my Aether Quickening and come in for another 4, and then I can probably kill him with red Scolding. But he spoil voided to the Lesson, which actually makes a lot of sense, because and that happened like in semis and finals where my Lessons got spoil voided and they AB2'd, and I was like, that's pretty nice. Like it makes a lot of sense, like to do that, because you don't want to have Kano tutor, especially if you're playing like top 8 versus the Kano player. It's like where you gotta give him the respect, right? Like they're doing so much. And then I killed him with red Scolding. He had like a blue pitch in hand, and he was at like 11 life, and I did like 15 damage to him on his turn. I like knew he had a blue because he reeled off Belittle, and he just died. So it was good. And then finals, we played like a really interesting game to where I hit with Nourishing Emptiness and had a 5-card hand, and he was at like 9, and I like couldn't kill him because I drew triple red. So it was like double blue, triple red, and I blocked with like 4 cards, and just played like a card from Arsenal, and then eventually killed him the following turn. But that's something with Nourishing Emptiness can do, is you hit with it, and then you block with 5 cards. Because it makes it so you don't die in a lot of situations, or you can kill them.
Wow. So, yeah. Wow, awesome.
And then I had both chains, like I was dead on the attack, like even if I blocked my entire hand, and it was like, you have 1 card in hand, like I have red Emeritus in my arsenal. If I hit another like good spell, I win the game, and I hit both times, so it was good.
Wonderful. So it sounds like you're just one of those guys that just really likes to perform under pressure, even when your life total is starting to dwindle. It's like that only makes you perform better, right? So able to turn stuff around and make magic happen. So out of curiosity, how much spell void did you see, and is that something that you worry about in Blitz in general?
The only spell void I saw was Chain. Chain playing like this spell void 2 on his hat. Chain has a lot of because you don't have a lot of equipment, you play the same equipment basically in like every matchup. You can afford to have a lot more slots into Kano, especially when you play like 4 Belittle. You can like get a blue all the time, and you're like super consistent, right? So it's one of the few decks that can play AB3 plus spell void. I do think that some decks, like when I play against Briar, or when I play against like other random matchups, they could be playing spell void. I think people haven't explored it enough, I'd probably say, of playing spell void in Blitz, because you do get free like sideboard slots the entire time, and I think that's something people should play a little bit more of. But they're like, oh well, in this certain matchup I want to play like this random like arm piece that's going to give me like 1 percentage point, but I'm probably never playing against a Kano, but it would give me like 10% versus Kano. I think people should take the 10% versus the deck that's like, if you're playing like in the deep rounds of a tournament versus a Kano, that Kano, like, he knows what he's doing, right? So you should be playing a little bit of Spell Void to try to beat that matchup.
Yeah, enough with the Gambler's Gloves. KO is not here. Don't worry about that. Play the full AV package.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think that's really sound advice. Like, you know, especially when we're talking about how much Spell Void can kind of help out in that area. But, you know, if you do sit across from Peter, it may not help. It just, you know, it's just it is what it is. You know, you can't beat fate.
My favorite Twitter interaction after I won is my boy Mo Bogsley is iconic for getting second at Battle Hardens. In like Blitz Battle Hardens, he's gone second like 3 times in Battle Hardens, and they called me the winning Mo Bogsley, the one that wins the Battle Hardens, not the loser of the Battle Hardens.
Oh wow!
And I was like, that's not even a compliment. That's just like you dissing this dude on Twitter at this point.
That's kind of true.
So this is.
I was like,
so
you better watch out. This is Brody's territory.
Oh, that's. I did play. The one I won. Brody was in that top 8, but I didn't see him in the finals. I don't know where he was. You know.
He didn't scrub out like we did on the culling.
I do love Brody.
Yeah, for sure. So congratulations on your win. You know, you secured the your second PTI, I believe.
Yep.
And then did you get a gold foil drop as well, or gold foil?
Yeah. So I knew the guy in the finals, and we decided to split the gold foil because first and second place got the same amount of cash. So we just decided to like split the gold foil because you could sell it sealed. And when people talk money to me, I am broke. And so if you tell me that there's money, I'm going to take it. So he was like, yeah, I can get a deal. Like one of the vendors gave like, I won't say the number, but like obviously like they gave a good deal on it. And instead of like, I knew the other guy that was playing the finals like pretty well, and I know he's a great player. So like the game could go either way. So I kind of was like, I'll take the split on this one. Usually I don't like taking splits unless it like makes a lot of sense. I think taking top 8 splits is like really bad EV because like usually you can just like double your money if you win for like top 8 to top 4, and then splitting top 4 makes a lot of sense like for store credit or for like normal cash prizes and like like a skirmish or a PTQ or something like that, right? But in these like high level events, I don't know anybody, so I don't trust anybody realistically. But I knew the guy in the finals, and I knew he was good on his word, or I'd flame him on Twitter. So
yeah,
I took the split there. So I didn't open it. We sold it sealed to the guy, to one of the vendors. So I don't know if they opened it yet or not. I told them if you open it, send me a DM, or if you sell it to somebody and they open it, send me a DM to tell me what it is. So I haven't got one yet. So. But I could be like hard coping if it's like Black Tech Whispers, because it'd be the first gold Black Tech Whispers, which would be like 3 to 5K. But I think that the question is a lot of the gold foils these days that are in the drops are like a lot of them are like 5 to 800, like or like people will offer like 5 to 800 on them, unless you get like the really good playable ones, like the WTR ones or. The OG ones or like the arcane ones or like basically heroes that are like super played. If you don't get one of those, like they're not worth like the insane amount they used to be worth, right? Because a lot of it is monetized a decent amount. So I was like, I'll take the for sure amount that I can get. So yeah, so I can go to like. Paid for my Baltimore flight, which I was a little concerned about because I was like, I hope it doesn't go up in like 2 weeks when I can pay for this flight. But I just got it that weekend instead, so now we're good.
Yeah, for sure. It sounds pretty awesome that you're able to have those conversations and split pricing with people. So I think that's really cool that LSS kind of allows for that to happen. I think that's a really great policy. So, yeah, again, congratulations on all your success in Battle Hardened. So, appreciate all the background on Blitz, and I think obviously the viewers do too. So, thank you again for that. But just kind of want to pivot the conversation and move a little bit back to the classic constructed side that we were talking about in the beginning, and let's talk about the meta breakdown here at Indy. So, in general, day one, we saw a lot of Dromai, Phi, and Briar, kind of making their way out in the aggro side. And then, day two comes out, we start seeing the statistics roll around, right? And, these bans were kind of interesting coming into Indy, but, we see that a conversion rate of 50% for Icelander and 40% for Oldhim. So just wanted to get, I'll move to you here, Eric, first, and I kind of want to get your thoughts on that meta breakdown and just Indy in general.
Well, the first thing I want to say is only one Kano made it day two. That could have been you, Peter, if you played Kano instead of Phi. Just saying, it could have been.
That is true. So what is hilarious is if I actually did play Kano at this event, I would have played a Kano mirror match round one.
Oh, that's true.
Interesting.
That would have been good. Actually,
if you've never played a Kano mirror match in any format, it is a very wild experience. It's a very wild experience.
But yeah, what are your thoughts on the meta, Eric?
Well, so I think the first and foremost is Ice is very much still here. I know a lot of people were like even like changing their name to Ice is dead. The aggro is here. No, Ice is very much still here. More just was so with the Icelander. Oldhim, not even Ice anymore, really. Like unless you're Fatigue Oldhim, not even Ice. We did see a rise in that though. Fatigue Oldhim with Charles Dunn. He had great success with it in the PQ, and he brought it to the calling. Same deal. But we also saw aggressive Oldhims as well. And the meta's not changed, really. I think, like Peter was saying, I think we did see a drop-off with Phi. It seemed like Briar took that spot. So I think it's now Icelander, Oldhim, and then Briar. But yeah, the meta is still kind of the same, and I don't even think that they can take anything more away from Oldhim or even Icelander at this point. It seems like there's just going to be good heroes, and they just got to LL.
Yeah, so to that point, I know you're kind of that aggro combo, Peter, and you're making quite a name for yourself on that. So, like, how do you feel about aggro in this meta? Is it kind of dead until, Outsiders comes out?
So, I don't think it's dead, realistically. How, like, as I said before, like, I thought Icelander was still going to be good, and, like, Oldhim took a hit, but I didn't think it was going to be that bad. Obviously, I don't think basically anybody going into this tournament would have thought, like, that top 8 would have been that top 8, right? Like, if you would have told me that 2 Icelanders made top 8, like, I probably wouldn't be surprised. Like, I'd be like, you got Michael Hamilton coming to this tournament, and, like, that's probably at least one, like, if he's playing Icelander, and then maybe somebody else tweaks in, But if you would have told me 5 Oldhims post-Winter's Whale ban is in top 8, I would have said you're crazy. I don't think anybody could have actually predicted that. I do think people were like, it's just an aggro meta, like, and we're, like, throwing out these, like, acquisitions where, like, Ice is dead and stuff like that. I'm going to be completely honest with you, but, like, shut the fuck up. Like, you gotta be, like, come on. Like, we all could look at that and be like, how did, like, Icelander obviously is going to lose, like, quite percentage points versus, like, Briar, but, like, that matchup was, like, 70-30, and, like, now it's, like, 60-40, which is still a good matchup. And then if you saw on, like, multiple camera games of, like, Icelander versus Briar, like, or if anybody's ever played Briar into Icelander, like, it is very hard to win that matchup. Like, if you don't roll them and Icelander doesn't have, like, a lot of experience, like, you do just lose very consistently. Like, the embodiment of, like, Earth, like, trigger, like, pops, and you just put a channel out there, they literally can't cast a card in their hand, or, like, they pitch their entire hand to that, you get a free 3 damage, easily block it, you can come in with, like, Wounded Bull for like 7, and then still have an interaction up. Like, it's very hard for them specifically to deal with what Icelander does. So when you're going to a tournament where everybody's like, oh, it's going to be aggro meta, like Briar Dash is going to probably be the best heroes like to come in, I would say that like Icelander's probably not a bad pick, and it's probably known to be a good pick, right? And like a lot of people brought Lexi, which I also thought was a good pick, but there's a decent amount of Oldham eventually. But it was kind of wild because I did think there were going to be more like Dash representation and Briar representation. I did think Fi was at a decent point going into this tournament. I think it just shows that Belittle being able to squeak in hands like and be super consistent and have these like huge like 7-8 card hand basically turns, you could see the difference between it and just the results, right? Fi is a hero where a lot of like newer players play it, so like there's a lot more people that play Fi at these events and the conversion rate is always going to be probably not that good, right? I think the conversion rate for Fi, it looks really bad. It's probably like a little bit better than it actually stands out because the number amount of time people have come into like and like tried out like Flesh and Blood, they see Fi and they're like, it clicks. Like they're like, oh, cool ninja. Like let me go see it. Like let me play this character. So you get a lot of people that, especially at a calling level, when it's like open invites and they're not like PTs, the conversion rate for a lot of aggro decks aren't as good as it would be unless it's like those aggro decks are like actually really good. So like Fi's percentage is going to be like a lot of the day 2 people or people that like lost their last round as Fi are like the ones that are like known for playing the deck, or they've played the deck a lot, or they played it at Worlds and they were like, oh, this deck's super consistent and here's like my current build of it and going into it and felt confident on it. And I think you saw a lot of like good players. Like I know Matt W from Magnolia, he's like a prominent Fi player, made day 2 with Fi, and he did pretty well. There was a random Kadashi Fi at the top tables. I don't know how he won games, but he was there, and he was doing well. So like I'm a proponent of like hating Kadashi Fi like pretty deeply. I don't think you could ever tell me that Kadashi Fi is good in any meta, and that it makes sense. And so seeing Kadashi Fi make it that long, like I was like, that's kind of weird. But I think going into it, people's Fi's builds are also not going to be the best post Belittle because it was pretty streamlined at that point. You weren't playing a lot of like really interesting things with Belittle. Like you weren't playing a lot of interesting things anymore because Belittle decks were just so good. And now people just had to like try to build a character that had like 7 cards removed from it, and they were like, oh, what else could I put in it? And a lot of them made the wrong decisions. I think Ravenous Rebel and like playing extra blues is correct, and like changing some of the one costs is going to be looking for in the future. I think Fi's problem currently is because you lose Belittle, you lose like the 60-60 matchup versus Briar. Because going into like in the ProQuest season, I thought the Briar matchup was 60-60. And I say that jokingly because if you asked a Fi player, they thought they're playing Fi because they think they beat Briar. And if you played a Briar person, they'd be like, oh no, I just like channel Force and they die, right? Like, and so like it's a 60-60 matchup because both sides think they're favored. I actually do believe it's like 45-55. I think it's Briar favored now, a decent amount, because a lot of you need to have these explosive turns as Fi to beat Briar and be more consistent. Because technically, Runeblade is the more inconsistent deck of the two. But it's hard to beat Channel. I'm going to be completely honest with you. Every aggro mirror, you understand, it's hard to beat Channel, right? And you can only dodge Channel so much or dodge good Channel turns. And when your opponent's deck works and your deck that does not block efficiently, it doesn't really go too well. So, but something that I do think Fi might have a little bit of a like more legs in this meta than a lot of people think is that it's good against fatigue strategies. So I think Fi is the premier aggro deck into fatigue Oldham, because it's hard to fatigue Fi because of how his weapon works and how Phoenix Flame comes in and like shoot go activations and like setting up Spreading Flame Art of War turns. You can get like you can go over like the classic like 16 block with Oldhim very efficiently. You can do like 600 damage in a game. So
Yeah.
You know what? I like that. That's perfect. I'm gonna make a video on how to beat Fatigue Oldhim. Especially like since I play Fatigue Oldhim, I know what beats me. That's one. There's a lot of Briar Tech as well. I think people want to know that. I think that's a deck that people see as like the great evil. And so if you can like, especially like you said, Fi is a very accessible hero. People click with Fi a lot easier. So if we can get something else like, hey, I got you. You're a Fi player. It's okay. I like that. I appreciate that one, Peter. I'm gonna do that.
I did post. Yeah, don't get me wrong. I did post on Twitter that I thought I'm gonna not be playing Fi probably until Outsiders, because I don't think it's in like the best position currently, because if the majority of aggro players are gonna play Briar and you sit down and there's 12 Briar and then like you're playing against Icelander or Oldhim, like you're gonna have to try to flip these Briar matchups too many times, and it's just not something I want to be doing. I also think like this is, especially this month before Outsiders, is like the key point in the meta to where you should try other meta decks that you haven't played in a long time. Like I'm gonna force myself to play Icelander more, because I do not play patiently enough to play Icelander a lot of the time. So just like getting the reps in is going to be very key. Also, I think there's just Dash is very underexplored. I think the only like there was a Fatigue Dash that were at the top tables. He lost his win in top 8, but I think that Fatigue Dash could actually have legs in this meta and keep going. And then I also think Boost Dash is pretty good, but I think people don't know how to build Boost Dash correctly. I think people saw like start Teklo Pounder and just try to boost into people, and they saw that and they're like, I will never innovate this deck further. And then I talked to Matt Rogers. I'm not going to give out his secret techs and stuff like that, but there's a lot more depth to that boost strategy that a lot of people know, and a lot of people aren't playing cards that he was playing in like the tournament. And
sure.
For somebody that knew what he was playing and watched some of his matches as well, he was styling on people. And I talked to him after the event, and he said that he made mistakes to lose every single one of his games, or he would have been XO. And I was like, yeah, like, it happens, right? So I think there's a lot more depth to this that people don't see or don't want to try to find out, right? They see, like, Fatigue Oldhim, and I don't even think Fatigue Oldhim is, like, the best version of Oldhim currently. I still think it's the mid-range Oldhim you should be playing, right? But like to beat the Briars, to beat like other stuff that would say respect like the amount of tech that you can have in your sideboard for Fatigue Oldhim. I just think Warhorn is like obviously a really good card to be able to like blow up a lot of like key pieces in your opponent's strategies and decks to beat Fatigue. And like Remembrance, obviously, I know a lot of people are talking about like banning Remembrance, and I just don't really see it. Personally, maybe it's just because of like the type of like decks I play, but I think Remembrance is actually fine for the game because it allows you to like recycle cards to like have a chance of winning, and these legendary cards have like decently cool effects that are like, and like being able to play it multiple times like kind of cheats the purpose of it being legendary, but also allows you to like beat like Remembrance beats Fatigue strategies, and like if you're don't like Fatigue strategies and you want to ban Remembrance, like it's kind of like, you know, it's kind of weird. But I don't know, I think this meta there's a lot to explore. It's kind of sad that we don't see a lot of innovation because there's a new set like right around the corner, but I think if we had like a couple more callings, especially like US callings, usually you see a lot of innovation between them.
It's true.
I would be pretty happy. So
yeah, for sure. And I don't think really the conversion rate from day 2 to top 8 necessarily tells the whole story, because while there was quite a bit of Oldhim and Icelander in the top 8, there was also quite a bit of Briar just in the top 16 in general. So it's not that it's the end of the world for aggro, but I just think it's an interesting question to pose. And I am kind of curious to see if LSS thinks that fatigue ultim is a strategy worth addressing or not at this time. So really kind of interested to see how that kind of plays out as well, in the future. So
yeah. I think
I also just want to say that
games that I've had playing against fatigue.
Oh. Go ahead.
No, you got it. Okay. The games I've had against fatigue Oldham are really good when after turn 3, you pretty much know it's fatigue, right? And sometimes you can board into it and sometimes you don't need to. But the main thing I always think when I'm playing against fatigue Oldham is that every damage counts and you have a lot of time to set up. And there's a lot of instances where you can, chip in damage here and there and set up these big turns. And I think versus fatigue, it really shows how actually good of a player you are pitch stacking and playing multiple cycles and being able to chip in damage correctly. And I think that pisses people off because they get exposed. I also think because people don't like blitz because they get exposed because they lose too fast because they make a mistake and you lose. So I don't think people like that, and I don't think people like playing against fatigue strategies because pitch checking is hard. Being able to know when damage comes from and where damage can, chip or do a lot of damage is a hard philosophy to understand. And when you play against fatigue and you lose 3 games in a row and they're hour long because you're playing against fatigue strategies, and you missed probably 10 to 12 damage during that game and they live at 4, it doesn't feel good, right? But I think those games show you more about improving in skill than anything, and I think people don't see that aspect to it. They just get to get mad and complain about it. So, and it's fine, right? If you want to complain about fatigue Oldham, you can just perpetually lose to fatigue Oldham, and they'll just get the win. I'll get the win, and then I'll play fatigue Oldham and beat them. So it's fine,
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a lot more that to say about this meta, and that we can kind of see out in the future. Kind of curious how Auckland is going to take the calling. Auckland is 2 weeks away, so kind of excited about that. But I think that pretty much covers everything that we wanted to really discuss on the podcast today. So just want to say in general, Peter, thank you so much for joining us again. We were there for the first win, Battle Hardened, and we knew it would happen again. So really happy that you were able to find success and come on board again. So look forward for the 3 time, right? Well,
the 3
time. Yeah, we're already looking forward to that. So.
It's the Battle Hardened buff, dude. It's the Battle Hardened buff. What can I say?
Yeah, absolutely. So, just for anyone that's watching and anyone that's interested in following you, would love to get your Twitter handle, and we'll put that below in the link.
Yeah. So you follow me on Twitter at Mask of Momentum, and you can follow me on YouTube at PTHTCG. I need to start uploading more, but that's the main thing to get unfiltered deck techs and my podcast personally as well.
Yeah, absolutely awesome. Well, thank you so much again for joining us, Eric. Do you mind signing us out?
Yeah, let's do it. Thank you, Jonathan, for leading this podcast and replacing me. Thank you again for Peter coming up and being our honored guest again. And thank you so much for the viewers. One thing I forgot to mention, I'll mention right here, right now, is that we got a lot of you that came and saw us at the calling, and that was really cool. And that honestly, despite me not making day 2, it was an awesome day because of that. So thank you again for watching, and we will see you on the next one. Until then, keep on babbing.